Trying to lift your flow ladder up. It's a little lever on the.
Gotta get those in.
Just because I can.
Yeah, last.
All right, everybody, good morning. Welcome to the Thursday, January 18, 2024 meeting of the SACOG Board of Directors. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning, Chair Kennedy. Thank you for calling on me to do roll now. If you could please indicate aye if you're present. Director Baines?
Aye, present.
Present. You can say aye too. Thank you. Baines, Bradford,
Here.
Branscombe,
Aye.
Bullahan,
Here.
Burris, absent. Chapman?
Here.
Desmond? Absent. Dowden Calvillo? Present. Frost? Gallardo? Gog?
Yes.
Gore? Here. Early for Guerrero? Here. Harris?
Here.
Howdeshelt? Absent. Jennings?
Here.
Joyner?
Here.
Nisley? Here. Kozlowski?
Here.
Lauren? Here. Lozano?
Here.
Terry for Sander? Absent. Schaefer?
Daniels for
Absent.
Schaefer.
I'm sorry.
Brett Daniels for Schaefer.
Thank you very much. Soon?
Here.
Teeter? Here. Thomas? Here. Vanes? Here. Thank you. Vega? Here. Villegas?
Here.
Vice Chair Saragosa?
Here.
Chair Kennedy?
Here.
And ex officio member Moore. Thank you.
Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yeah, my bad.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does the clerk have any housekeeping comments?
For our new board members, we want to welcome you, of course, and then also let you know how our microphones work. In case you don't know, you don't need to pick up the microphone. You can just press the button, and when it's lit green, that means that you are being amplified and it is going out to our live stream. Thank you.
Thank you. And takes us to public communications for any item not on the agenda. Is there any member of the public that has an item they would like to address the board at this time that is not on the agenda? You'll have an opportunity to address items on the agenda at a later time.
There's no public communications.
Thank you very much. First item, please.
Thank you. Our first item is our presentations. And our first item is our induction of our 2024 chair and vice chair. And so if Chair-elect Saragosa can go to the podium with our executive director, James Corliss.
All right. It's on, okay. I was just given this duty a couple of minutes ago. It's a good thing. I've done a lot of weddings, so. Chair-elect Saragosa, repeat after me, and this is also a memory test. I, Michael Saragosa.
Aye.
do-
Oh, sorry. I think I'm jumping ahead already.
He's excited. He's enthusiastic. All right, well, let's try it again. I, Michael Saragosa, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend
I, Michael Saragosa, do solemnly swear I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the state of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear truth and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
repeat that again.
That's a long one. That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the state of California,
That I will take this obligation freely
that I will take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
And during such times as I am chair
And during such times that I am chair
for the Sacramento Area Council of Governments and the Capital Valley Regional Service Authority for Freeways and Expressways, that's the real test.
that I will,
Say SACOG and safe, I think we're okay.
I think, repeat it again though,
As chair for SACOG and safe,
as chair for SACOG and SAFE,
I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of chair
I will faithfully discharge the office of chair
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll do better than that. Yeah.
Wait till I sing. All right.
And Vice Chair-elect soon, if you could join Director Corliss at the podium, thank you.
And don't forget, Darren, you have another shot at this next year as well, just in case you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. I, Darren Soon,
I, Darren Soon,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
that I will well and faithfully discharge
that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter,
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
and during such times as I am vice chair
And during such times as I am vice chair
for the Sacramento Area Council of Governments and the Capital Valley Regional Service Authority for Freeways and Expressways, better known as SAFE,
for the, for the Sacramento Council of Governments and the
And safe.
Sacramento and safe.
I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will well and faithfully discharge the duties
of office of the vice chair according to the best of my ability.
of office of the vice chair according to the best of my ability.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
With all of that being said, I will gladly hand the gavel over to Chair Saragosa. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we will go ahead and continue here. And as my first act, I like to call Chair Emeritus to the podium as well, and James.
So, Director Kennedy, I know that hurts. I know. I understand. It is a great honor for me as executive director of the agency to reflect on the past year and the service of the chair of the board, because this is not an easy job, but you've done it so incredibly well. So we've got a couple of things for you this morning. First of all, I would like to present to you this plaque, the plaque from on behalf of SACOG for your service to the agency and as chair of the board. And I know we had a good December board meeting and reflected back on a lot of the accomplishments of last year, but you were behind so many of those accomplishments. Just a few: the Blueprint Workshop in Folsom, the passage of AB 350, our legislation that you spent a lot of time walking the Capitol along with other board members. The Youth Leadership Academy, our high school students, you made the time and commitment to come and talk to high school students because that's your passion. And really, I've learned a lot from you. I've learned about what it means to have passion for public service, and your belief in equity and racial equity and community engagement and the things that you do both here at this board and on all the other boards that you serve. It really is, we admire it so much, and we admire your public service. And I do want to give you a special award. We're very data driven here at SACOG, and we looked at all the board meetings you chaired. Chair Kennedy has the fastest board meeting time of any board chair in the history of SACOG, and I think that deserves a round of applause. I also want to present this resolution from the state legislature, and this is on behalf and signed by the delegation, your delegation here, Senator Ashby and Assembly Members McCarty and Nguyen, and it really is a testament to you and your public service, your record in office. It doesn't quite say you're the chair of everything in here, but I think that could easily be said. The first ever joint board meeting of at least 3 of those agencies that you chaired last November. And really, again, your passion for your district, for the place that you have grown up in and that you love, and your passion for this region. I will tell all of you when Patrick was becoming chair a little over a year ago, we had many phone calls in which you said, where do I need to go? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to sit down with in this region? And he did that. He made himself available. He went out, and I can't ask for any more dedicated board chair. And on behalf of the legislature and our senator and assembly members, I want to present to you this resolution. Now we have one more thing. I know Patrick doesn't like to get serenaded, but we have one more little gift. When I first joined SACOG 7 years ago, I called every board member I could, and I talked to Patrick, and I said, what would you change? You could change one thing about the board. What would be the thing you would change? And he said, I love your staff. They're all really smart. But honestly, when I hear some of the presentations, I feel like you're speaking in another language. Can you please just translate all the technical stuff for us? I said, okay, that's important because we want to make sure we're good communicators. You also may know Patrick's Irish heritage and everything else, and his green Kelly shirt that he wore at the Folsom workshop. So we have a little gift here. I know you only have 2 hands, but here, I'm going to take the resolution from you, and you just open the gift.
This is coming from an Englishman, so
Yeah, careful.
careful.
It's a well-worn joke. And I also appreciate Patrick's sense of humor. And if you can't see it, can you put the slide up on the? All right. So this is the coffee mug, and that's the logo right behind you there. Please drink with care. Materials may be hotter than you expect.
I just want to say thank you, and it's been a tremendous honor.
Thank you, James. I wanted to take this time, if any board member would like to make any comments, or say any words to Director Kennedy. I know I can say one thing is I thought you had the biggest shoes to fill, coming after, with Rick coming after you. I think I have the biggest shoes to fill because everybody wants to get out of here as quickly as possible. So if I can be more efficient than you, that would be great. I don't think I will be. But I just want to say thank you for, allowing me to be your vice chair and, bringing me along and ensuring that I had a voice as we were doing things, and just learning from you, learning from your wit and the ability to, just get the job done. And so I want to thank you for that. And, I will still be calling on you for lots of things. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
If I may, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair, Patrick, I want to say thank you. That is not an easy role to take. This is a challenging board, and we get to deal with exciting regional issues, but you've done a great job. And I think the thing I appreciate about you is you're all business right here. But when you are one-on-one, my goodness, I didn't realize how funny you are. And you just make things so enjoyable. So I really appreciate about you. I feel like there's two different Patrick Kennedys, and I enjoy both, but I have really enjoyed getting to know you.
I thank you, and my psychiatrist thanks you.
If I might, while
Yes.
the light is green, Kelly Green, I believe that. Yeah,
There you
thank you.
go.
Good job. Among the first, I don't know if it's on there, was you hosted the first board meeting in Roseville. And I felt the intensity. I was told by James, we got to be brisk. And I said, I only have 50 slides, right? But I talk fast. But, I got to know how caring you are about this process. I got to find your Roseville connection with, and I think that's what we're building here. And all of us work towards, building these connections. Can't always agree on, things, but connections are important. So thank you for nurturing us.
Next item.
Yes. All right, fair enough. Moving along, first I want to say thank you all for putting your trust in Darren and I. So looking forward to a good 2024. Committee assignments did go out this morning if you haven't checked your inbox, but those are out. If for any reason if we try to accommodate, I try to accommodate everybody, we all did. Sometimes we could not. So I apologize for that if we couldn't. If there's a reason you can't make a meeting on your policy, please let myself or Lynette know, and we will do our best to get you into a committee that works for you. So we did learn, unfortunately, that we will be losing a couple of board members, Director West and Director Gore. These will be the last meeting, and so we want to acknowledge them and say a few words. I know, I've gotten to know Bonnie pretty well, and you will be greatly missed on this board. Your leadership, your past leadership, your continued leadership, your ability to cut to the chase and get to the point, but do it in a way that's respectful to everybody, will be greatly missed. I will miss your wisdom here. I know we talk a bit, so I'll still be calling on you and talking to you, but I just want to say thank you for your service on SACOG, and hopefully we'll see you back as well. So thank you. Then I'll open it up for anyone else that'd like to make any comments.
Yes,
Yes, Director Thomas.
I just want to personally acknowledge, my colleague and friend Bonnie Gore. You have been absolutely, I shared with some thoughts with you in the coffee room, but you have been absolutely instrumental to this board, to all of us as colleagues, and to this region. I was unaware that Bonnie joined this board in 2019. What you've accomplished in your tenure belies the fact that you've been on this board a relatively short amount of time, which speaks to your great skill and ability and passion for not only your district, but our region. You've served as the Policy and Innovation Chair, I think formerly known as the Government and Public Affairs. And then you certainly served as our board chair in 2021. And that's when I joined this board again. Of course, we were in the middle of the pandemic. We can all remember how challenging that was. It's challenging to connect with each other and to move our region forward as we're sitting around a board table, but all the more challenging when we were all in the middle of great disruption in our own jurisdictions, but then having to connect with each other and move the business of the region forward in that format. And Bonnie, you were the right woman for the job at the time. Your skill and your grace in leading us forward enabled SACOG to be effective in the middle of a cataclysmic event. Your brilliant suggestion that we, open up a half hour before a board meeting and kind of get to know each other in a relaxed setting, get to know each other's region, helped us connect. And then you led us with great grace so that our region didn't suffer during that disruption. So I'm continually amazed by your great skill in that. Certainly you've moved our region forward through your immense efforts with chairing the Mega Region Working Group, which has done just amazing things. And you've been critical in securing funding for Green Means Go with your advocacy work and your relationships at the Capitol. So thank you. Thank you for giving SACOG your all. I know you don't want to leave, but we all wrestle with balancing the needs of our respective boards, and you're doing that also with great grace. And we would expect nothing less. And so just wish you well, and know that while we may see you as an alternate, please know that you are leaving a legacy on the SACOG board. And we know you will continue to do amazing things for our region, and just very grateful to your efforts here.
Can I say something as
Yes,
well?
of course.
So I had no idea that you were leaving us. And I remember our last meeting, I sat over there, and before the meeting, I turned to you and I said, you know what? You are really an amazing leader. And I meant that. I'm new to this board, and it can be very intimidating to be in a room with these amazing regional leaders, right, who are so knowledgeable and who have been here for a long time. And I have just appreciated your leadership, both a regional leader, but also for your county, and as a woman. Having you be able to sometimes just set the tone and be able to be so thoughtful and disagree, but in a very respectful way that makes you step back and say, like, that was a really good point. But you don't feel, you feel the kindness, and you feel where it's coming from. And so I just want to say, as a new, I'm also an alternate, but as a new director, you set just a really great example. And I just think that's important for you to know that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, of course.
just one more. Bonnie, in the last year, every time I asked you to do anything, you not only did it, you did it with a smile, grace. You're a tremendous asset here, and I will just say that of all the bonehead things to do in the world, for Placer County not to return you to SACOG, that's among them. So we're gonna miss you.
Well said. All right. All right. Well, again, Bonnie, thank you very much. All right, Director West is not here today, so we will reserve some of those comments for him, hopefully when he can join us. But I do want to welcome Director Teeter to the board. So welcome very much. Can we all give her a nice warm welcome? Director, you want to just say a couple of words, introduce yourself?
Thank you. I just appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I'm excited to see what we can get done here.
Great. Well, welcome. All right. All right. So just wanted to take some time to thank some folks. I'd like to thank everybody that said yes to working in a leadership position. So Directors Gallardo, Bradford, Villegas, and Lozano, and as well as Vice Chair Soon. I want to thank you for stepping up. It's going to be a good year, 2024. It should be an exciting year. It's a presidential year, so let's all just hunker down on that aspect of it, because it will be probably the most terrible election cycle any of us have gone through. But I think from the policy work that we have many things that are important ahead of us. We have the blueprint that we are going to be working on, and as any of you have heard me over the years, housing is a deep passion of mine, especially home ownership, and creating a road to home ownership. And so I think that's really an important part. Even though I know people think of us as a transportation agency, we are sort of all of the above, and what we do has a direct impact on potentially on housing as well. So especially for Lunar Committee, for those that are there, I really want to challenge you to look for ways to see pathways for whether it's affordable housing, rentals. Those are important as well. But again, I do want to stress for all those, and I know like Director Kozlowski had a great program in Folsom where it allowed people to get into home ownership. And so I really want to bring those great ideas and best practices forward. I think it will be a great thing for all of our regions when we can do that. Because when we talk about, race, the REI committee and the racial equity work, to me, nothing will help resolve some of those long-term issues as we bring people into home ownership and into that path of generational wealth. I think it's sort of the first and foremost ways for people to be able to do that. And so I really want to see what we can do from a market perspective and how government can be helpful in that regard. Next month, we will have an REI refresher, and I've been working with staff on this. And there's a book, Color of Law. We're going to get that book to everybody. I encourage everybody to read it. There'll be a quiz. I'm back in school, so I have to take quizzes. You have to take quizzes as well. No, but I do want to make sure everyone reads it, really get to understand. And I think something Vice Chair brought to us was, when there was like CC&Rs that disallowed for people of color to live in Lamb Park, and this is right in our backyard, and so those things were very real. And those, while that doesn't exist today, the legacy of those things are still felt throughout our regions. And you can tell just by the way patterns of home ownership and where people live and where they live today. So still things that we have to contend with as we go forward. The other thing, and it was a great thing for myself when I was a newbie back in 2019 as well, which was a chance to get to know everybody. Because you walk into this room and you're like, oh my God, there's 30 people. I don't really know a lot of them. I might know a couple. And so having, board retreats, having the ability to go on board excursions, I was able to go to San Diego. It was a chance to get to know your colleagues, to get a chance to really, develop that camaraderie a little bit more. So we want to be able to do that in 2024. And so one of the things, the board survey results, thank you for putting them up. These were the items that came back. And I'm happy to see that, the top value was, developing those collaborative approaches to regional issues. Hugely important. I mean, we all represent our own districts, our cities, our counties, but at the same time, when we come here, we're supposed to be able to not put those aside completely, but to be able to put them aside in a sense that we do have to do regional approaches to things. And some of the priorities that came up, you'll see those there: offsite board meetings, the peer region tours, regional events, board retreat. We can't do all those because we have a lot of work ahead of us, but we're really going to do the peer region tour this year. I've looked at Denver because it's a good peer metropolis for us. And I think it'll be a good place for us to go visit and learn some best practices. I also think Denver in June is probably not so bad as going to some other places in June. So hopefully we'll have some decent weather there. So those dates will go around to see if people can make it, and hopefully we'll have the ability to do that. I had a great time. We went to San Diego. I know some of you went to San Diego and Salt Lake City, and just really brought back some good ideas. Last year I was able to go to Detroit, and that was just a great learning experience for me. You really bring back some good ideas. That was representing SACOG to the NARC committee there, which I still think is the greatest acronym, which is NARC for COGS around the country. Anything, Lynette, do we have a sense of what those dates might be in June yet? Just for
We're looking somewhere in the middle of June. Typically, we've done these on Thursdays and Fridays. Fly out Thursday morning, come back Friday afternoon, get you back for the weekend. Right in the middle of June would be June 13th and 14th, I think. But Lynette's going to send around some dates with maybe some alternates, because we know you're busy folks and certain dates won't work for all of you. So stay tuned. But either late May or middle of June, I think, are the sweet spots.
Great. And I really encourage, I mean, to the extent that you can, and we all have, whether it's vacations or our work, but I really encourage everybody, if you can make it, please try to make it. I think it'll be to your benefit, and you get to know everyone a little bit better, and you get some really good knowledge on these trips. So I'm really looking forward to that. So with that, we'll go ahead and jump into the agenda and into the consent items. We'll now take up the consent calendar. These items are intended to be approved in one motion unless a director wishes to remove an item for discussion. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent calendar?
Through the chair,
Yes.
move to approve the consent calendar, the Baines.
I got a first and a second. Lynette, is there any public comments on the consent calendar?
There's no public comment on the consent calendar.
Okay. Do we need a roll call for consent?
We can just do a group vote.
Group vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of, on the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion passes. So we're going to go ahead now and move to our action items. And our first action item, number 5, is our public hearing for unmet transit needs in Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba counties and the cities therein. And our staff, Barbara Von Bechtold, has agenda items for us.
Good morning, everybody. Barbara Von Bechtold. I'm staff on the transportation team here at SACOG. So SACOG, as the 4-county regional transportation planning agency, must hold a final public hearing here before all of you at the board meeting on unmet transit needs before we can bring the final findings to you in February.
It's difficult to hear you. Can you turn up or speak closer to the mic, please?
Okay. Better? Okay.
Better. You
Sorry.
have to probably speak a little bit louder.
All right. It appears to be on.
It's on.
Is it on? Okay. 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 Wow, that's really close. Okay. Can everyone hear me better now?
Better.
'Cause I'm not usually quiet, so I just want to make sure. Okay, we have to hold this final public hearing before all of you on unmet transit needs before we come back to you in February with the final findings on unmet transit needs that'll apply to fiscal year 2024-25. Similar process is held by the El Dorado County Transportation Commission and the Placer County Transportation Planning Agency in their respective counties. And so now just requesting you open a public hearing for unmet transit needs for the 4-county region.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and open up the hearing. I do have one public comment here from Michael Barnum. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay through the microphone?
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Michael Barnbaum, and I participated quite extensively in the unmet transit needs for this round that you are having a public hearing on today. I won't bore you to death to go over every recommendation that I put a lot of time and effort in, but I'll just kind of summarize the 14-page analysis and dissertation I provided staff in the fall, and a supplemental report I just provided this week as a result of a recent action on the 8th of January. The general concept of the report was looking at closing service gaps where gaps were specifically identified where there isn't any fixed route service coverage. Looking also at span of service hours when a service starts and when a service ends. That was particularly the case in regional approaches where a service is crossing county lines, perhaps connecting to one or both of the major light rail lines that the Sacramento Regional Transit District offers. The approach was more looking at, though, thinking inside and outside the box. So this report looked at Sacramento, Yolo, El Dorado, and Placer counties. So you'll see in the report, for instance, an example of Route 50 from Placerville to Iron Point, Folsom Premium Outlets, expanding the span of service hours, or Route 10 from the Auburn Conheim station to the Watt I-80 station, expanding the span of service hours. Gaps in coverage included an east-west route through the Oak Park, Curtis Park, and Land Park neighborhoods to the Power Inn industrial area, along with a portion of Elkhorn Boulevard in northern Sacramento County after service was completely reimagined in September of 2019. There was a gap in coverage along portion of Elkhorn Boulevard. The supplemental report focused more on the approval of the construction for the Dos Rios light rail station, but yet during construction, how to best provide seamless access to transit options during construction with the least amount of disruptions possible to the riders. So it provided from a time frame of this spring to the end of 2026, 3 routes with robust transit service during the construction period, and a reimagination of the
Go ahead.
Sure. A reimagination of the light rail alignments during the construction for both the blue and the green line, while leaving the gold line as is with service hours and frequency to get full access to transit on that line. So if you have any questions about the full report or a specific recommendation or the supplemental report that might be in your packet, I'm here for any questions or anything that you may have, and I'm now working on a full comprehensive operational analysis. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Michael. All right, do we have any other public comments?
There's no other public comment on this item.
Right. Directors, any questions for Michael or for staff? All right, seeing none. So this will come back next month as an action item where we will actually be voting. We had to open up the hearing at this meeting, and we will continue with this next month. So thank you. Thank you, Michael. All right, moving to item 6, which is the development of a regional tolling authority and the YOLO 80 corridor improvement project. And Ms. Hanley has this item for us. Thank you.
Yes, good morning and congratulations to Chair Saragosa and Vice Chair Soon, and great to see all the rest of the Board of Directors. I'm Kathleen Hanley. I'm a principal planner on the transportation team here at SACOG. And item 6 is an action item on the development of a regional tolling authority and the YOLO 80 corridor improvement project. The agenda for my presentation should be familiar to many of you. We've had a lot of robust discussions on this topic over the last couple of months. I'm going to start out with a discussion of the staff recommended JPA governance structure and any changes since the discussion we had at the December board meeting, and for those of you who attended the January Transportation Committee meeting last week. In particular, we'll have a discussion on excess net toll revenue voting requirements and the collaboration we've done with the Sacramento Transportation Authority on that point. And we'll close out with remarks from our project partners, specifically Caltrans District 3 and the Yolo County Transportation District. I want to start by talking about what we've heard both in the December SACOG board meeting and in discussions we've had with directors and with other staff at our partner agencies on this issue since I last brought this information to you all. The types of feedback that we've heard can fall into 2 categories. The first is really on the Caltrans's role within the JPA. There was some clarity that was desired on what their voting role would be, some concern around having non-elected officials sit on our board, but overall a real desire for a productive partnership with Caltrans. I think we all understand that, you know, as the owner operator of our state highway system, any efforts to make improvements to that system, and especially tolling, is going to require a really robust and collaborative process. And there'll be some presentation from Brian Alkinsell from Caltrans District 3 at the end of my slides today to speak a bit more to Caltrans's role within the JPA. There was also a robust discussion around JPA appointments and this desire to balance the need for appropriate local representation from the communities who have the toll facilities at the time decisions are being made, with the need to make sure that we have enough regional perspective that we can balance and decisions that are made can work for everyone, with where we see kind of the long-term vision of the toll facility in the Sacramento region to be. So wanting to provide additional clarity on how the board grows, what it could look like at various stages as toll facilities come online, with a particular focus on additional clarity on Sacramento County's representation. I really want to appreciate all of the feedback that we've received and I'm sure some of the discussion that we'll have today. I'm really proud to serve a board that even under a tight time frame takes this heavy issue, feels its weight, takes it seriously, and is asking important and hard questions. But I'm confident that the recommendation that staff has provided for you today is the next best step for our region and that opinion is shared by the relevant partners in our area. To be specific on what the staff recommendation is today, there's two parts to the staff recommendation. The first is to approve a joint powers authority agreement creating the Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority, the JPA that would serve as the tolling authority for our region. That JPA agreement solidifies what the staff recommendation on a number of key issues that's been under discussion. It includes 1 at-large voting seat for SACOG, 1 voting seat for Caltrans, and 3 voting seats for every county that has a toll facility. It also, the staff recommendation includes a provision for corridor supermajority voting for plans to spend net excess toll revenue. You'll notice in parentheses, there's some options with numbers and letters that refers to the additional attachments that were provided in the staff report. And I'll talk more about some of the other options that staff considered in developing the staff recommendation. The second part of the staff recommendation is to approve a resolution consenting to YOLO 80 Assembly Bill 194 application being submitted by this newly created JPA, the Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority, or CARTA, as I'll discuss it for the rest of my slides. So as we've discussed previously, the California Transportation Commission requires that either the Regional Transportation Planning Agency, which is SACOG for Yolo County, submit this kind of application or consent to another entity submitting it. So this is the formal action, should we choose to create this JPA, the formal action by which that JPA is empowered to take that action in the future. To provide a visual on what the governance staff recommendation looks like, the initial partners of CARTA would be 3 agencies, SACOG, YOLO TD, and Caltrans. SACOG would appoint 2 seats, 1 at-large voting seat and 1 seat for every county that has a toll facility and is a member of the JPA. YOLO would appoint 2 voting seats appointed by YOLO TD, and Caltrans would have 1 voting seat. Any future counties that would join the tolling authority in the future would be able to appoint 2 additional voting seats, and those would be appointed by Sacramento Transportation Authority, Placer County Transportation Planning Agency, or El Dorado County Transportation Commission, depending on which relevant county was joining the facility or the JPA at that time. So I want to talk through a little bit about what the scenarios would look like. So in the first scenario, what we're imagining right now with YOLO 80 being the first facility that's kind of coming through the development process here, we'd have that 1 voting seat for Caltrans, the 1 at-large voting seat from SACOG, and 3 voting seats with representatives from Yolo County. 1 of those representatives would be appointed by SACOG. Should a new toll facility be added by Sacramento County and STA were to join the JPA, this is what the board structure would look like, very similar for the first 5 seats going left to right, with 3 additional voting seats representing Sacramento County, 1 appointed by SACOG, and 2 appointed by Sacramento Transportation Authority. If we take a look at all of the potential future partners that are named in the JPA, we're looking at a similar structure going from left to right through Yolo County and Sacramento County, with similarly 3 additional seats for Placer County, 1 appointed by SACOG, 2 appointed by PCTPA, and 3 additional seats for El Dorado County, 1 appointed by SACOG and 2 appointed by EDCTC. I want to talk a bit about how we came to this staff recommendation and what other options your team has looked over to sort of really feel confident that this is the next best step in entering into tolling for our region. In evaluating the different potential options, we looked at 4 sort of metrics, which are detailed in the staff report. The first is any potential risk to the YOLO 80 project. As many of you know, the YOLO 80 Corridor Improvement Project has received $86 million in discretionary federal funds. Those funds need to be obligated, so essentially the project needs to go to construction this year in order for us to successfully deliver those funds. And so in selecting a governance option, we want to make sure that whatever option we chose doesn't provide any additional barriers to successfully delivering those funds. The second category is any risk to SACOG as an organization. There's a lot of robust discussion from directors in December on wanting to make sure that sort of SACOG's legislative requirements and what we're really best at here is protected, and in terms of staff time, but also any liability and financial risk to SACOG as an organization is relatively preserved, as well as for our member agencies. So we're going to make sure we evaluate potential governance options on that bit. And then the last two are sort of this tension that we feel a need to balance in having a regional partnership so that we're creating a tolling system that really does work for our constituents who constantly travel across county lines and who need the system to have sort of reliable and understandable rules that don't change just as you go sort of from 1 mile to another, with the need to make sure that there's sufficient local representation, that the folks who are getting these toll facilities in their communities and the directors who represent those communities can have the appropriate amount of say to ensure that they're representing the needs of the individuals most impacted in our region. So I'm going to talk quickly through the tolling governance options that we evaluated. You'll notice that the staff recommendation is option 2A, but there's an attachment provided to your staff report that has some more of staff's thoughts in more detail. So the first is looking at what it would mean to have SACOG be permanently the tolling authority. This was a part of the discussion at the December SACOG board meeting. The coloring here, red being the highest amount of risk and green being the least amount of risk, yellow being in between as we move through this chart. So really, having SACOG be the permanent tolling authority is not a preferred path by our critical partners on the project. That could create significant risk for YOLO 80. It puts SACOG at a lot of risk. It does have the advantage of regional partnership. We're the only entity that has all of our jurisdictions in the region represented. But the sort of flip side of that coin, right, is that the folks who are most directly involved with YOLO 80 in the beginning and toll facilities that could come online in Sacramento County are pretty outnumbered on the board here. The second option is for SACOG to serve as the temporary tolling authority and then to transfer that tolling authority to an entity, basically to provide more time for this board and others to make a decision on what the ultimate governance option could be. A critical issue to that is that the California Transportation Commission, who has a lot of decision-making authority on allowing the YOLO 80 corridor improvement project to move forward, has indicated that there's not a lot of comfort with that, with us coming in and saying, well, for now, this is going to be the tolling authority and later we're going to figure something else out. They really want to see our region come forward with some confidence on the structure we're going to have so that when they're making a decision on what's good for California and its transportation system, that they have some confidence on what they're making a decision on. The rest of the squares here are yellow because without knowing what that ultimate would be, it's very tough for staff to evaluate what risk to SACOG or what amount of regional and local representation there might be if we don't know what the SACOG temporary would be transferred to, for example. The remaining options look at various formations of a JPA structure. I've talked a bit about the staff recommendation. This is the option that's best supported by YOLO TD and Caltrans District 3. It provides limited risk to SACOG by creating a separate JPA that would house the majority of the liability associated with these projects. And the growth structure and the clear opportunity that we're providing for future partners who might come online in the future, and the opportunity for non-voting seats for those partners in the interim to be able to be part of the conversation really balances that local partnership while making sure that YOLO County, who has the first facility, has an appropriate amount of representation in the staff recommended governance structure. Other potential options that we looked at for a JPA structure would be for Caltrans to have 2 voting seats. On its face, this doesn't really provide any additional risk to YOLO 80 or SACOG and has some hints of a regional partnership. I think, of course, that the more seats we give to an entity like Caltrans, that of course, in addition to representing District 3 and our region, they also are a statewide department. And the chair has made some remarks to this effect. They ultimately serve kind of the administration and statewide policy needs. So staff really sees there some potential for additional local representation risk with going with 2 Caltrans voting seats. Another JPA option is for Sacramento County to get an additional seat. This option was originally proposed by Sacramento Transportation Authority. They've moved away from this as their preferred option and towards more of a voting requirement for different issues that the JPA would move forward, which is included in the staff recommendation. But should Sacramento County receive an additional seat as more toll facilities come online in Sacramento County, that's not an option that's preferred by YOLO TD or Caltrans District 3. So that provides some risk to the project by us not having some good collaboration on this potential solution. And then the desire for there to be proper local representation for the other counties who will also have toll facilities might get dominated with there's more seats with Sacramento County. Okay, the last option is the option that was proposed by one of the directors at the December meeting, which is essentially to have a set number of seats on the CARTA board to prevent it from getting too large and to have who represents those seats shift depending on who has active toll facilities within the region. again, similar to how I've said with other issues, this is not supported by our critical partners and provides some risk for the YOLO 80 project. And this sort of swinging seats where a jurisdiction has representation and then loses it over time could cause some friction issues with regards to regional partnership and local representation. So staff is really confident that the structure that we provided, what's included in the recommendation, is really the best approach of the options that we've looked at. I want to talk a bit about toll revenue and expenditures and to lead us into this conversation on the additional voting requirement for plans to spend excess net toll revenue. I want to be clear about what excess net toll revenue is. So if you can see this sort of faucet graphic that I have on the left here, that's gross toll revenue. So that's the revenue that's coming in when folks use the facility, they pay the toll, everything that comes in. The first set of cups that are taking away from the revenue, the first is leakage, issues with collecting, sort of regular operational issues that would mean you wouldn't collected the max amount of tolls you could have. And then all of the operations required for the actual toll facility itself, as well as for the back end of the charging of the tolls, the customer service, all of those expenses related to operating the toll facility. So those take out a significant amount from the gross revenue, and then we get to net toll revenue. But even that amount, there are a lot of line items that are required to be paid for first before we can even look at excess net toll revenue or sorts of discretionary types of funding where counties could be making decisions. So that includes any debt service that the tolling authority would have had to take on to fund the construction of the project, and then any amounts to put in a reserve to make sure that the tolling authority has sufficient funds in the future. If, say, there was a pandemic and people stopped driving, the tolling authority would need to have enough in its accounts to be able to fund its ongoing operations even during that time. So this is really all to say that in general, there is not a lot of net excess toll revenue to make discretionary decisions and to improve corridor facilities, generally speaking, from toll lanes. I provided some bullets here on things that can kind of impact how much excess net toll revenue a toll facility might have. In general, when you charge, how much you charge, and what other line items you add to your list really have an impact on how much you get when you go from gross to net excess toll revenue. And then some examples of types of toll facilities that generally speaking have higher net excess toll revenues, and those are ones that are longer, right? The longer the distance of the toll facility, the more time savings you're providing a potential customer. If they can get all the way across our region, that provides a greater benefit. They're more likely to pay. Supply and demand, you tend to see sort of better toll revenue from there. Direct connectors, same thing. If folks can seamlessly get interchanges from I-80 to I-5, for example, you start to see better net excess toll revenue. And then dual lane facilities where there are two toll lanes right next to each other. That's also in the state where we tend to see net excess toll revenue. Very few of those conditions that create large net excess toll revenue are included in the YOLO 80 corridor improvement project. So this is all really to say we're not expecting large amounts of net excess toll revenue here. However, the staff recommendation does include an additional voting provision that's been added to the JPA agreement, which says that when the CARTA board were to take action on a plan for net excess toll revenue, that plan for net excess toll revenue would, in addition to requiring a regular majority of the CARTA board, as actions do, would require an affirmative vote from 2 directors in each county for the applicable corridor. What that would look like is for the example of YOLO 80. So when the CARTA board considers a plan for net excess revenue for YOLO 80, at least 2 of the YOLO County representatives would need to vote into the affirmative. If it considered a plan for, let's say, I-5 in Sacramento County in the future, at least 2 of the representatives from Sacramento County would have to vote in the affirmative. In cases where a future plan for net excess toll revenue would include multiple counties, like let's say Interstate 80 across the top from the northern part of Sacramento County into Placer County, it would require at least 2 affirmative votes from the counties on that corridor. So 2 from Sacramento and 2 from Placer. And so staff feels that this additional voting provision provides that confidence that the counties that are most impacted by the decision of a net excess toll revenue are a part of the table when that decision is being made, and that decision is not being made for them by folks representing other areas. But that keeping this provision relatively tight on this particular critical decision also doesn't tie the hands of the CARTA board, giving them the maximum amount of flexibility to make regional decisions moving forward. That concludes my explanation of what the staff recommendation is. I'm going to give it to Brian Alkinseld, Caltrans District 3 Deputy Director of Traffic Operations.
Welcome back, Brian.
Welcome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I just want to thank Kathleen for that introduction, and Chair Zaragoza, Chair Soon, it's great to have you here. and great to be here. Members or directors of the board, thank you for having me. As Kathleen said, my name is Brian Alkinsell. I'm the Caltrans District 3 Deputy Director for Traffic Operations. Today, in partnership with SACOG staff and YOLO TD, I will be presenting the benefits to the region of Caltrans being a voting member of the JPA, known as Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority, or CARTA. We took to heart the comments of this board and the Transportation Committee in December, and we hope this presentation clarifies why Caltrans District 3 is in a unique position to provide significant added value to this proposed JPA. We believe that including Caltrans as a voting member of the proposed JPA provides three main benefits to the Sacramento region. The first being reduced engineering, operational, and maintenance cost. The second is improved efficiency and required approvals and permits. And the last, and probably the most important, more productive and transparent relationships with Caltrans. I'll start with operations because that's what I'm most familiar with. All tolling authorities, okay, let me put this up. Is that better? Okay. All tolling authorities are required to have a transportation management center, and that's to provide real-time incident management and also to monitor conditions of the tolled managed lanes. But why is that? The purpose is to optimize the safety and reliability of the tolled managed lanes and to maximize revenue generation. What is a TMC? A TMC is a central hub for all communications. It receives information from roadway detection, from weather information systems, from CCTV cameras in the field, workers in the field, and reporting parties from the public. It sends information through our changeable message signs, our highway advisory radios, our traffic alerts, and also on our quick map application. The majority of congestion comes as a result of recurring, non-recurring events like debris in the roadway, crashes, sometimes weather events, special events, and these are all referred to as incidents. A TMC is required to be staffed with operators and dispatchers, ensuring coverage during the toll lane operational hours to actively manage these incidents. We've all experienced times when YOLO 80 is congested. What happens? Navigation apps divert traffic to local roads, including Covell Boulevard, Mace Boulevard, County Road 32, and West Capitol Avenue. Others take the long route around the incident and may use State Route 113 and I-5. The purpose of the TMC is to clear an incident as quickly as possible to allow the transportation network to operate and function properly and return to its normal operations. Caltrans District 3 already has a 24/7 traffic management center or transportation management center in Rancho Cordova with the workstations, hardware, essential staff, and communications infrastructure needed to serve as the tolling authority's TMC. As a voting member of the JPA, Caltrans District 3 would be able to provide our existing TMC service, saving the JPA significant costs in lieu of building and staffing a separate TMC or contracting the service out. Other regions pay between $250,000 to $600,000 in startup costs for a TMC and about $1 million annually in operating costs. There would be significant time and cost implications trying to build something similar from scratch. As an added benefit, CHP is co-located with Caltrans District 3 TMC, optimizing our incident detection, our incident verification, response, clearance, and recovery. Caltrans' close relationship with CHP would also benefit the JPA when traffic breaks or lane closures are needed and when maintenance is needed on the tolled facility, in addition to any typical incident response. Caltrans District 3's existing freeway service patrol contract could also be leveraged by the JPA. This would save the JPA a significant amount of money by removing the need to have its own FSP contract. Now, FSP is a roving tow service used to help disabled or stranded vehicles get back on the roadway and out of harm's way. It is extremely helpful during the peak periods of congestion. We estimate this cost to be approximately $100,000 annually during the duration of our YOLO 80 project. Maintenance. So maintenance is our first line of defense when it comes to safe and reliable travel for our road users. All tolling authorities are required to pay the maintenance costs for their toll facilities, including signs, markings, pavement, communications, and any other infrastructure, and must have agreements with Caltrans regarding maintenance. The question, how can we reduce maintenance costs and worker exposure through better coordination and less duplication of work? Other tolling agencies or tolling authorities independently fund the required maintenance and do not leverage Caltrans equipment or planned maintenance of adjacent lanes. With Caltrans District 3 as a voting member of the JPA, we can reduce the JPA's maintenance cost through better coordination and limiting the duplication of work. When maintenance is needed and both the managed lane and the general purpose lanes are impacted, contacting one maintenance crew instead of multiple teams would simplify the process, save money, and lead to less workers in the field. Our maintenance crews are very familiar with the areas and already have established relationships with CHP partners in the field. This allows them to work safely and efficiently together and save time trying to locate identified areas of concerns in the field. Contracted employees are not as familiar with our system and do not have established partnerships with their CHP counterparts. Additionally, Caltrans District 3 owns heavy equipment and vehicles required to maintain the facility, which could be leveraged by the JPA to help save operational costs. Contract maintenance services for toll equipment may still be required, but these cost savings from better coordination help ensure more of the toll revenues go towards improved travel options for your communities. The next item is engineering services. In other regions, tolling authorities must contract with consultants for environmental, civil, electrical, and traffic engineering services to design and construct projects. In addition to the significant costs of these consultants, these tolling authorities must also pay their Caltrans district to cover what we call design oversight. This process increases design costs and creates delays, as each party must respond to each other's comments. How can we leverage existing Caltrans engineering expertise to reduce engineering costs and delays? As a voting member of the JPA, Caltrans District 3 could provide our expertise in engineering services, saving the JPA significant costs in lieu of contracting the services out and eliminating the need to pay for additional Caltrans oversight. Having Caltrans do this work in-house makes the process more efficient and ensures the quality of the product where safety and reliability of the transportation network are at the forefront. Caltrans and YOLO TD are using this model for the YOLO 80 Managed Lanes project, already saving the project and the region substantial costs. In addition to reduced cost and improved efficiency, having Caltrans do the engineering work for future toll lane projects for the JPA would improve transparency and partnership. As a voting member of the JPA, Caltrans would be able to provide the JPA on information and updates on development of the future projects, providing opportunities for CARTA directors and their constituents to weigh in earlier in the project delivery. Access to communications. Why pay for communication infrastructure that we already have? Access to reliable communication is vital to the successful operation of tolled managed lanes. Specifically, communication is needed to inform the public, operate the toll system, and monitor the toll facility. As a voting member of the JPA, Caltrans District 3 could provide our existing communication backbone, specifically to fiber, saving the JPA significant costs in lieu of contracting out the service or installing separate facilities. And just to get an idea of what that would cost, to start up, there's really two options. If you were to build your own systems close to what we have in our communications, there would be a startup of close to about $12 million with a lower annual cost because fiber, if you have it in the ground, it's less to maintain, but close to $50,000 a year. Or if you were to lease that out, it'd be a $3 million startup cost, and it would be about $250,000 a year. Next. Expedited access. So I think this is where we can help a lot. All tolling authorities must submit encroachment permits for Caltrans approval for access to the state highway system, and that's for maintenance or construction activities, as well as for lane closures. These services have typical and required timeframes and required advance notification for approval in non-emergency situations. So how can we streamline access to the state highway system together? When Caltrans performs the construction and maintenance work, an encroachment permit is not required, and potential lane closures are known in advance. As a voting member of the JPA, Caltrans District 3 would be able to provide expedited access to the state highway system, saving the JPA significant cost and in downtime and delays. If the JPA needed a portion of the work to be completed under contract, as a voting member, Caltrans District 3 would be engaged in raising the priority of lane closures and encroachment permit reviews. A typical example would be contract work needed to maintain or repair the electronic toll infrastructure required to collect tolls. Expediting these reviews will help maximize toll collecting capabilities and ensure less loss of potential revenues. In conclusion, this is my last slide. But I want to spend the most time on this slide because I think it's the most important. In conclusion, Caltrans District 3 works extremely hard to manage and optimize conditions on the state highway system. Because of this, we have a lot to offer as a voting member of the JPA, which includes but is not limited to a state-of-the-art TMC, an existing FSP contract, maintenance services and existing equipment, expertise in environmental, civil, electrical, and traffic engineering services to design and construct projects, access to our robust communications network, including thousands of field elements, fiber, CCTV cameras, changeable message signs, and expedited review of lane closures or for any needed permits. Caltrans' mission is to provide a safe and reliable transportation network that serves all people and respects the environment. And as the owner and operator of the state highway system, we support the addition of tolled managed lanes. While a Caltrans district has not yet been part of a JPA, our colleagues in other districts and their partners struggle with higher costs, duplication of work, project delays, and lack of coordination, with Caltrans not at the table. We are an enthusiastic partner, and we would like to see the tolling system in the Sacramento region work better than what we see in the Bay Area and Southern California. We believe that having Caltrans District 3 as a voting member of the JPA puts our region in the best position to have toll projects succeed and help meet our shared climate action goals. We look forward to the opportunity to work closely with other CARTA directors to better understand perspectives of their respective communities and constituents, and to share our expertise to help optimize and maximize toll lane performance. We're committed to making this a successful partnership and ensuring the Sacramento region has a more productive relationship with Caltrans. We support the staff recommendation to form a JPA with Caltrans as a voting member, and we look forward to any questions or comments this board may have. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Good morning, board members. Autumn Bernstein, I'm the Executive Director of the Yolo County Transportation District, and I just want to thank you for all of your time and energy and attention to this issue over the last few months. I know it's been a lot, and we're just really grateful to you all and to the staff here at SACOG, as well as Caltrans District 3, Caltrans headquarters, and the Sacramento Transportation Authority, Placer County, El Dorado County, everyone who's been a part of this conversation for many months. Your action today is essential to moving this project forward. It's been a lot of work, but I think we have gotten to a place where the three agencies that need to be the primary signatories to this are in agreement, and it has been no small effort to get us there. And I appreciate that staff from the other three regional countywide agencies are here as well, and that they have come together with us to try to move this forward. We are very aware of the regional significance of what we're doing and wanting to do this in a way that really does set the foundation for the region. All of our current board members are current or former SACOG board members as well. And from day one, their direction to me has been, we need to do this in a way that we're really thoughtful about being, good regional partners. A couple just specific comments I want to make. We are supportive of the staff recommendation to have a supermajority vote requirement for net excess toll revenue. But we would be very concerned about going above and beyond and applying that supermajority vote requirement to other decisions, operational decisions. This is the kind of thing where if we cannot reach consensus on toll revenue, how we spend it, okay, it sits there until everybody works it out, right? That's how that works. But if we can't make a decision and we can't proceed on things to make sure we can actually open our lanes and operate our lanes, then that's going to grind everything to a halt. We will have, once we have toll facilities in operation, we're going to have to continue to make decisions as things come up, because we're going to be paying every single day for those facilities to operate. And if we can't open the facility and charge the tolls, we're going to be hemorrhaging money. So it's really important that we are able to, that this board, that we don't tie the hands of the future board, that they are able to make the decisions they need to make so that we can operate the system and move forward as a region. And so that's why we think the model of having equal representation from all of the counties is essential, but we recognize the concern about toll revenues, not being spent in a manner that the county where those toll revenues is generated thinks is appropriate. So I think that what we have before you is a reasonable compromise that allows us to assuage the concerns that we cannot get our business done while respecting the concerns that have been raised by Sacramento County. And then lastly, I will just say, with respect to Caltrans voting seat, I think the benefits that they've laid out for you. We have been talking with folks at other JPAs, other tolling authorities, about the concerns and the challenges that they have working with Caltrans, and they have highlighted that these are key issues. I think something we heard loud and clear from the Transportation Committee is that we needed to have clarity on exactly what those commitments are. So what you see in the JPA agreement for you is an agreement that Caltrans has agreed to, that within 6 months, they will come to the JPA board with a proposal for exactly what those benefits look like in the areas that they've outlined today, and that the JPA board would need to approve that. So again, recognizing and hearing your feedback, that we want to make sure that there is some there with regard to what Caltrans is promising, but also recognizing we are not going to get it done by today. So I just wanted to share that. We are supportive of staff's recommendation and urge you to move it forward. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Back to you, Chair.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for a very detailed presentation. I know some of us have heard it a few times, but I think it's good for everybody to understand. It's obviously a big vote and
Chair Saragosa, I think
Yes.
our general counsel would like to.
yes,
offer.
Just one quick comment to follow up on what Ms. Bernstein said.
Michael,
Sorry, I'm
He's got to speak up.
So within the agreement that we provided you, I did speak with Caltrans and their attorney, and they agreed providing that information within 6 months that we would work that out. I forgot to fill in, it should say 180 days in the document you have. So that's why when Autumn mentioned 6 months, that's what it's referring to, is my mistake not having it filled in. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you, Michael. All right, I'm going to do things a little bit differently as we open this up for director questions. Since YOLO's the lead agency here, I'm going to give them the opportunity to speak first if they have comments or questions, and then we'll open it up to everybody else. So any of our YOLO directors want to make any comments or questions?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. I want to thank Kathleen and your staff at SACOG for your work and collaboration on this. This has been a whirlwind 3 months or 2 months. Lots of meetings, lots of conversation on a project that has a huge impact on our region. So thank you and your staff for your leadership on this, as well as Autumn and our team at YTD, and then the other regional partners coming together to work through this. It's not an easy one, and really do appreciate your leadership on that. I also want to just recognize and thank real quickly Supervisor Frericks, former Supervisor Don Saylor, Tom Stollard, who is on our chair here on this board, for being here today, but also your leadership on this, getting this ball going, securing the funds for this project. Appreciate you and your leadership on this, and continue engagement as we move forward. As Autumn said, we are supportive of the staff recommendations. We've worked closely with our regional partners trying to get to something here, and I think we have been supportive of option 1B, knowing that we need to have a regional collaboration as this moves forward. So we are supportive of that. We've gone back and forth around what the voting, where the voting applies, and how that applies. And I know that we have talked with Autumn, and she expressed some of our concerns and relayed them to the board today. So I'm looking forward to hearing your comments and your insight into how you feel about what those voting, how that voting would apply to this project. And I appreciate your thoughtfulness and your approach to this. So with that, I'll turn it over to any of my other colleagues, Director Early West or Director Lauren, for any other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you. When our meeting opened today, we opened with a quote of our direction, which is to develop a collaborative approach to regional issues. And I believe that's exactly what we're doing here. I support the staff recommendation. And with that, I just want to talk a little bit about local control. I think the item 2B,
the JPA supermajority with 2 votes for each county on a quarter by quarter basis allows for local control in an appropriate manner. And I think that that there's a list in the staff report for pros and cons. The pros being that it focuses on a quarter by quarter approach. The cons that it would allow a few voting members to potentially block plans. And that in itself is why I feel like it's important to just have it apply to the excess toll revenue and not to anything operational. Because if it was operational, it could be used as a tyranny of the minority. And I don't think that we set ourselves up for failure today. I think that we set ourselves up for regional success. So I support the staff recommendation, and I also support item 2B as it's stated in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you, Director.
Can I just, Chair, I think it's item 1B, right? 1B, I see people flipping through there.
Yes, so
1B.
the staff recommendation is for governance structure 2A and voting requirement 1B. Your staff is very thorough.
Thank you for the
Thank you, Kathleen.
clarification.
Yes, Director Early.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So a couple of things. One, I want to make sure that I highlight that I wholeheartedly endorse SACOG's staff recommendation to approve the JPA agreement in its current form, both 1A, 2A and 1B. I feel like you're testing us. I have confidence that the SACOG board will also see the merit in supporting it without the need for additional amendment or changes. The proposed JPA structure ensures that every county will be well represented, offering 3 seats to each county along with a at-large seat for SACOG and another for our Caltrans partner. This balanced approach incorporates both local, regional, and statewide perspectives, and it fosters a holistic view of the issue at hand. And I think that for me, that's really important as we think about the future and what we are doing here and implementing is this idea of true regional impact for all of the constituents that we have here that will be driving along, right? The boundaries that we have across our counties are real to us, but to the folks that are engaging and traversing all of this, they don't care about the boundaries. They just want the system to work. And I'm really excited about the opportunity for us to create a system that is going to work for all of the individuals that live, work, and play throughout our entire region, not just our counties. I think it's worth highlighting that the establishment of a supermajority vote requirement for spending net excess revenue is a testament to our commitment to fairness. This ensures that decisions regarding the allocation of revenues generated in each county are made collectively and with the agreement of all affected counties. And I think that's really important. And we heard that during our transportation committee, the need for that. I think it's also important to note, and we heard this from my colleagues as well, that the supermajority vote requirement exclusively pertains to our net excess toll revenue and not to other policies and programs. This approach ensures flexibility for the future JPA board, allowing them to carry out essential work without unnecessary constraints. And I think it's just even more important to note that an affirmative vote today is crucial for keeping the project on track, safeguarding $86 million in federal funds that must be allocated this fall. I'll say it again, safeguarding $86 million. That is a lot of money that is in front of us right now that impacts our entire region, not just Yolo County. It's starting with us, but it impacts all of our constituents. And I think we need to take this decision not lightly. I also want to know, thank you, Director Chapman, that we also have our former mayor of West Sacramento here, Christopher Cabalden, to also speak to some of the issues that we have at hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up to the floor. Yes, Director Gallardo.
Yeah, just one question before getting to comments, but just on the TMC charge, one of the things that they mentioned with Caltrans that they would save us, it was like the startup 250 to 600,000 up to $1 million a year. Are you saying there'll be no charge for Caltrans if they're part of that? Is that covered?
I'll say initially, what we would use is our existing facility and our existing infrastructure to help. If we needed to build from there, there might be additional costs, but our startup would be, yeah, that would just be us.
So the startup, the 250 to 600, there wouldn't be, but then the ongoing million that you said it could cost, is that something you're going to cover?
Well, I've never done that before, but, but I know there may be some,
We're recording, just so.
oh, no, you're fine, you're fine. So, this is uncharted territory for us, just so you know. And, right now, we're already doing that anyway. We wouldn't need to charge anything. If they were down the road, if the JPA decided, well, you want more than what we're able to provide, a greater level of service, then we'd have to talk as a JPA of how do we compensate for that. But right now, we've got it. We've got all the infrastructure in there, and that's what we're coming to the table with. Dave, did you want to mention anything on that?
Yeah, so looking at it, and it is kind of hard to quantify some of this stuff, but really it comes down to is we have our existing TMC today. We have an existing staffing level. We have existing capabilities there. But as more and more tolling lanes come on board, we may not be able to handle that workload as it increases, and we may be statutory required not to be able to provide those additional resources without working with the JPA on how to fund those things. So I wanted to make sure what we were making today wasn't a commitment about future conditions beyond today, as well as helping outline that. And I think the MOU that you will see prepared really outlines what those costs are associated with operating the yellow 80 Vantage lane. And you'll see some of those differences there. The other things that I wanted to highlight, because some of those costs that are not hard to quantify, it's about the partnership. And we had that third bullet on the first slide of our presentation there, is we tend to, if we're not on the same page early on, we tend to end up going through rework through the process. And that's a lot of stuff that's hard to quantify. And that's where hopefully being in a good partnership and building that trusting relationship and working early on as the JPA comes forward with programs and projects, we're on the same page moving forward, ultimately saving time and money and those things down the road.
I can just follow up on
We're
that.
hoping to find a way to quantify that a little bit better for everybody and what that looks like. But obviously, it also depends on, having that voting members, what is that additional influence to help ensure that we're all on the same page and we're all in agreement and we're all moving forward for the best outcomes for the people, the travelers in the region, to meet those needs out there for everybody.
If I'm summarizing, it's the trust but verify. I think we've all heard that a time or two. So I love the relationship, but, so what you have now would be able to be used if we need something up and beyond that. But so just my follow-up on then is, so why would other jurisdictions currently be hiring somebody as a contractor to do it if it's something that you guys could do without really any additional costs, even if you weren't in a JPA with it?
Because we weren't necessarily in partnership at the beginning, trying to figure out how to make all that work together. So,
They haven't approached you and said, hey, you guys are already doing it. Why do I need to pay extra even if we're not in it? Because to be honest, we're all in a partnership in the state with Caltrans.
no, I understand that. The idea here for me anyway, and with a voting versus a non-voting membership or being part of the JPA or not part of the JPA, is to reduce all that risk moving forward. And we have those conflicts in other parts of the states. And part of that is probably why those JPAs are going alone with some of their own facilities and not in agreement with it. I can't say that if we were a non-voting member, we may end up with some of the same forms of agreements down the road, but this is to help ensure that and working together in partnership. Caltrans could have gone it alone and formed its own JPA, and quite frankly, I'm new to this process. So, but Caltrans could have taken this project and gone forward on its own, but that's not very good in partnership either. And that's not very good in engaging and making sure the local and regional agencies that we're all on board on how to move forward there. And I'll say, and I mentioned this in the Transportation Committee meeting, there are a lot of things that are outside Caltrans control that we have a strong interest in, and some of that's, I'll say, involves around the equity decisions made about the impacts of tolling lanes and some of that stuff, and that's something that Caltrans is very interested in and very interested in, want to be sitting at the table. And so I think from what we've seen in some other parts of the states, by ensuring that we have these facilities available and we make sure we don't go through, when I say we, the taxpayers of California, don't go through the additional expenses of parallel facilities, parallel fiber and some of those things there, is really looking at those cost efficiencies of savings, but also being that greater engagement, I guess, early on to make sure the right decisions are made up front.
If I could add for Director Gallardo, so we've had good conversations with the other regions who have existing tolling authorities to sort of prove this out and see kind of what their perspective is on the path that we're heading down. And they're waiting with very bated breath to see. They see a lot of potential in this structure that we're trailblazing here because of the struggles that they have with their Caltrans district, sort of sitting at their board table for their tolling authority, getting direction from their directors, and then having to go negotiate an MOU or a co-op agreement with Caltrans and trying to reconcile those two decision-making forums. They're very interested in this potential path, and I think we could see more of it in the state in the future. Another piece I want to add is that the Bay Area and Southern California have extensive local transportation sales tax measures and large amounts of discretionary local transportation funding. So the idea of having to provide a second parallel facility, they have more opportunity to do something like that, which is perhaps why they didn't engage in this partnership. But I think this region has much more of a value of belt tightening and doing what we can with what we have. And so I think the staff recommendation and the partnership and leveraging what District 3 has sort of reflects the aspect of our region.
Thank you, Director Gallardo. So I think suffice to say is that Caltrans has taken on a new policy position to be more proactive and to be a more active participant in tolling going forward. And we'll see how that bears out in other areas as well to sort of encapsulate it. So we're gonna go first to Director Desmond, then Vice Chair Soon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize. I was not here for your formal induction ceremony. And I want to first also thank Caltrans staff once again, and staff from YOLO and STA and others who've been involved in this. And I think it's actually a really good solution how you've been dealing with Caltrans and how you would incorporate Caltrans's role and obligate them to do certain things. So I support that, and I support the structure of this. I've been concerned about this from the beginning, just because for me, philosophically, I think when we form a JPA, we always form a JPA with an eye towards fairness in terms of representation. It doesn't make sense to me inherently to form a JPA where one governing body is 80% of the JPA and one is 20%, and they each have equal votes. I mean, to me, I think JPA should be structured more like the House of Representatives. They should be proportional, not like the United States Senate. I also understand there are exceptions to every rule, and this is a little bit different situation with this JPA we're looking to establish here. So I support the idea of 1B in terms of the excess revenue. And that way, instead of having a proportional voting system, you ensure that one county has to approve the decision relating to the excess toll revenue, if there is any. I don't think it is tyrannical to say that counties should also have to agree on how the operations for these toll lanes occur within their jurisdiction as well. I think that would really compel this JPA to come to consensus on the operational matters. So I think that 1B, the staff recommendation with 1B, I support it, but I also support expanding that same language and that 2/3 vote requirement for any stretch of the managed toll lanes within a county. So in other words, if a county has a toll lane, managed toll lane going through it, that county has to approve by a 2/3 vote, not only how the excess revenue is used that originates from within that county, but how those managed toll lanes are operated within that county. I too think that's a local control issue. I mean, I think it is a fundamental issue not to provide other jurisdictions the ability to essentially roll a county and dictate how managed toll lanes are going to be operated in their county. I think that's important. I am not worried that this GAPA would not be able to come to consensus about how these are operated. In fact, I think Yolo County obviously will be establishing the first managed toll lanes, and there will be a great deal of deference to how those toll lanes are managed as it is expanded in great measure in Sacramento County, because I think the projections are that at full build out, there'd probably be 2/3 of the managed toll lanes within Sacramento County. I think that I have full confidence in the JPA being able to reach consensus on how those lanes are managed consistently across the jurisdictions. And we could reach that consensus while still maintaining the ability of each county or requiring each county to have to approve how those lanes are operated. So those are my thoughts. And I would look to my colleagues in Sacramento County representing Sacramento County jurisdictions and really want to know how you feel about that, because I think if we don't preserve that, we really risk getting operational guidelines imposed on Sacramento County. So thank you.
Thank you, Director. Vice Chair Sun.
Thank you, Chair Zaragoza. I'll first start out by recognizing or thanking Caltrans for their taking this approach for regional collaboration. As the owner operators of our state's highways, this unique or trailblazing policy they're setting forth, I think is a testament to their willingness to be regional collaborators. And I want to recognize everyone in this room and the parties that were recognized earlier, including my colleagues who are no longer on the board, for their engagement on this. If nothing else, we have demonstrated how well we can regionally collaborate, given the significance of this document and this JPA in the short timeline that we were forced to come to a consensus. I think all of us need to, be proud of ourselves, and it really demonstrates what we will be able to accomplish in the future. I want to give a special shout out to Chair Desmond and Chair Emeritus Kennedy for their work in Sacramento County's part, in Chair Desmond's role as STA Chair, putting forth what we have today from staff recommendation. And then finally, Ms. Hanley, thank you for your work. I know you've had to rehearse this and say this presentation 20, 30 different times, but you do it so well in a very pleasant way and making it simple for all of us, including me, to understand. So having said that, I do support staff's recommendation. With all due respect to Director Desmond, I appreciate the need for us to weigh in on operations, but I don't think that having a unique way to operate a state highway is the way to go when Caltrans is already doing it in terms of economies of scale for the entire highway system. I think our JPA has a venue. If there's any concerns about operations, I think we have a venue to voice our concerns. And I do agree that we can come to consensus quickly if there's an issue with operations. But I will say that 1B for excess revenue, I think, is important as a matter of local control. So with that, I support staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Vice Chair. I think Director, yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, as an alternate, I'm not 100% up to this, but I did want to we support option 2A, but I wanted to get clarification on the structure, and that was one SACOG vote and initially probably 3 votes for YOLO, 1 appointed by SACOG. Would the SACOG vote be an elected or would that be an appointed?
It's actually your next agenda item. It would be a member of the SACOG board.
Okay, and then I'm just going to comment on the overall. So I really appreciated staff's presentation. It's always wonderful to see people who really know what they're doing, what they're talking about, and presenting it in a very good fashion. So I really appreciate that tremendously. The thing that's bothered me today more than anything is even though staff said, I think the quote was, not much will be there in regards to excess net dollars. I'm hearing a lot of conversation about these dollars. And so I don't understand why we would convolute that. I don't understand why the issue wouldn't be that if we're collecting excess dollars, then should be reducing the fee. Government shouldn't be making money off of something, and we should only be charging what that is costing us to provide that service. And so having this to be some kind of cash cow or something like that would be very disturbing to me. It should be very simple that those that are going to take the opportunity to pay a little bit more to get somewhere a little bit faster would not have to pay as much then. And that might encourage some other people to jump in, because my fear is this. I've spent a lot of time traveling in the Bay Area, and I've watched these lanes, and I've sat in that traffic because I'm not paying that extra fee. And I've just looked at them as open lanes, and a car coming by occasionally and here and there, and maybe a little more at one time and less at another time. I don't even understand that. If we were laying down asphalt and there was no fees involved, this meeting wouldn't even be occurring, And so, because we're going to lay down some asphalt and also go to a process where we're going to charge people money to go onto that asphalt. And I don't mean to offend anybody here, because I think everybody has the right heart, but in the process, it's just, to me, it shows how dysfunctional state government can be, that we're going to have to also then create a process that is going to involve all these layers, all these things that we've talked about today, because we're going to charge somebody a couple of dollars to go on that road. So that's my biggest concern, is these excess dollars and what should happen to them, and why we would need to decide anything other than we would just reduce the fee to be on the road. That's it.
Thank you, Director. Director Frost?
Well, thank you, Chair. I have a question. Well, first I want to respond to Supervisor Desmond's comments, which I totally agree. If there's a toll road within, say, our jurisdiction, we should have some say in how that, in the entire process. I believe it's important that each jurisdiction or each member in the tolling authority has, is involved, has a higher level of involvement in the decision-making in their area. I had a question regarding protections relating to administrative costs. And this kind of goes to the idea of, does this become just another board that grows government, or are we actually, applying the toll revenues to improve, the conditions on the road and the road, improvements and so forth. And I read through the JPA, and I've read a lot of JPAs since I've been a supervisor, and it on some of them, it does kind of put a cap, maybe a percentage cap on administrative costs, so that we don't have a board that has runaway, administrative costs that doesn't go to the initial mission of the board. And I couldn't see anything, but I wasn't sure. So I wondered if you could speak to that.
Kathleen, I may be able to speak to that. There's actually, we didn't include it within the JPA agreement itself, but under the statute AB 194, the one that we get the tolling authority through, there's a 3% cap on administrative expenses. So because it's something that's already built into the statute, we didn't feel like we didn't feel like we should mirror that in the agreement itself. But that cap is there, and so there is that control within state law.
I mean, just as a matter of experience with JPAs. Oftentimes when we're having these conversations, having it in the JPA agreement makes it easier for the board to understand what the rights of each jurisdiction are. It provides more clarity. So I don't think it would be a bad idea to reference it just so people are aware, because how would I wouldn't have known that, if you know what I mean. But I understand where you're coming from. I'm just saying, for future, I don't think the average board member will know about AB 194. The other question I had was relating to securities in 4.2 B. So I want to make sure I understand, is this, so what I was looking for, are there protections? Who has liability if there's a negative? Because I know there have been some bad experiences in Southern California with the tolling where they had, real problems, financial problems. And who, where do they go when they're, and so it looks like this JPA agreement is giving this board basic immunity, giving all the members immunity. So the board members and, the counties and the jurisdictions that are involved have there's no connection. The liability, all the liability and the revenues go to the board. And the board has the authority to bond and issue securities. So is that completely separated from the county of, say, the county of Sacramento? If that board decides to issue, $1 billion bond, is is everybody immune from that, including the members? And then if they grow the debt and they have problems, what happens then?
So good question. So what this section, the 4.2B on securities, what that does is it empowers the JPA to issue bonds. It would be a JPA board decision. We also have provisions in here that are authorized by state law that have been upheld in other situations that say the debts of the JPA belong only to the JPA and not the members. So if the JPA were to borrow money, issue bonds, anything like that, unless a member's affirmatively going to guarantee the repayment, only the JPA would be on the hook for that. So we do have it set up so that if the JPA is taking on liabilities, those liabilities aren't passing through to SACOG or anyone else unless they're volunteering to do that.
Okay, so it's like a bankruptcy then, right?
Think of it like a corporate shield. It's, if you've got a corporation and you form an LLC, that LLC is in charge of the debts and you don't pierce the corporate veil. We're doing the same thing here.
Okay, and then under restrictions, I was looking for, is there a way to ensure that the money that is, the tolling money goes to where the location of the toll facility? And under restrictions, it looks like it gives some flexibility. It states that they have the authority to engage in activities and construction within that facility, but they have flexibility outside that, as long as it complies with the MTP, SES, and RTP, and et cetera. So can you tell me if that is a protection for the jurisdiction that has the toll facility, not jurisdiction, that's the wrong word, the city or county that has the tolling authority? That's a guarantee that the money will go to their tolling authority, or to whatever expansion the board decides they're going to expand to.
So all of the toll revenue will go to the JPA itself. And then there's a provision under AB 194 that the revenue has to be expended within the corridor where it was generated. And now corridor is a pretty broad term. It's not specifically defined in the statute, but it's similar to what Kathleen was mentioning earlier. Now, the way we're limiting it through this agreement is with that voting procedure, So where it's the 2 affirmative votes, that would be from each member within the corridor. So basically where the money's coming up, those at least two per county, depending on how many counties it covers, would then have that say over how those monies are expended. So theoretically, if it was a corridor that just included Sacramento County and Sacramento wanted to do some kind of allowable expenditure that was outside the corridor, they could. Sorry, I said that wrong. That was within the corridor, but outside Sacramento County, somehow that they could, but that's where we would need that supermajority vote for it to even be allowed. So we've got the protection within the corridor, and then we've added that voting protection as an additional measure.
And it's not a supermajority of the board. It's a supermajority of that county.
Correct. It would be a majority of the board and then two of those within the county, within the affected corridor.
Good, yeah. I just want to say that I really appreciated Director Desmond's comments. He said it better than I did, but I agreed with everything he said. And I felt like this was kind of rushed. You know, it's kind of hard to have this conversation so fast because it's a big deal what we're doing here. But I'm going to support it, and I'm hoping we can make those adjustments based on what Supervisor Desmond stated.
Thank you, Director. And then I'm going to do a pause right here for director comments and come back to those. I want to make sure we get all of our public comments in. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open up public comments. And I do have some comment cards. And our good friend, former Mayor Christopher Cabaldon, if you want to come up first.
Hi, friends. It's good to be back. I am Christopher Cabaldon. I served on this board for 22 years, including as the chair and as the Transportation Committee chair for 11 of those years as well. From Yolo County and West Sacramento, and it's good to see so many of you again. First, just a cultural, political, just a reminder is if you look at these JPAs, those that have set them up in other parts of the state, in none of those other parts of the state is this a prime assignment. Although we talk about it as though everybody wants to be on a toll JPA, virtually no one wants to be on a toll JPA. Because tolling is wildly unpopular. And it is very difficult for tolling projects to move forward. My friends in Yolo County know this quite well. And by the sort of as a corollary, there is no long line of jurisdictions in the region waiting with their tolling project to go forward. So the unique situation that you are in is because of the leadership of Yolo County and the special circumstance of this federal grant that does not exist anywhere else in the region. When I first came on this board, it was my turn because every 8 years, someone from West Sacramento was allowed onto the SACOG board. Every 10 years, somebody from Roseville or Loomis might be on this board. The idea that this was the House of Representatives, that the jurisdictions didn't matter, that it was just population, sort of ran free. And so not every city participated. There was no equality among the region. Supervisor Muriel Johnson from Sacramento and I and several others produced the compromise that created today's voting structure that brought everyone to the table. It's very common in 5 of the 6 counties in the region, PCTPA, El Dorado Transportation, Yolo Transportation, Yuba, and Sutter. They're all equal. Winters, West Sacramento, we have the same votes on the Yolo County Transportation District. Davis and West Sacramento does. And in this case, it makes especially good sense because Davis has more people than West Sacramento, but who has more trucking? Who is more dependent and who contributes more to congestion on the highway? West Sacramento does. Which city in our region, in our county, depends most on it for the agricultural economy that sustains Yolo County? It's Woodland, right? So it isn't just a question of population when it comes to the regional highway system that is involved. And so what all 5 counties do internally, which is to say every city and the counties are equal, is the right approach in this sense. And it's why this compromise is held. And it's why SACOG is held together in all these years. Before that compromise, almost every year, half the jurisdictions in SACOG were threatening to quit. And they often did. But this compromise, this bringing everyone together as equals, has worked. And so I want to say that this process has been about collaboration, not power, because as you know, as skeptics about tolling will reinforce, when you are on the highway and the tolling facility isn't working, it's broken, the sign's down. It was supposed to open at 5 a.m., but it's opening at 6:30. You just, as Jesse said, you just want it to work. And just as the federal debt limit doesn't really bring people together, sort of these manufactured crises where you can't get to a majority when you have to. A supermajority doesn't bring people together. A supermajority makes everybody into a veto situation, which is why when it comes to operating a police department or a fire department, when it means turning on the tap water, flushing the toilet, or operating a toll agency, that it's absolutely critical that a working majority can accomplish its work. When it comes to planning, the sort of things that SACOG does and that many of us do in our cities on policy issues, supermajorities can have the effect of forcing, because you have the time. Say, well, we didn't get it done today, but let's come back in 6 months and try it again. But you cannot do that when you are turning on the water or the police department or the tolling system. And that's why that's why the beauty and the genius of this proposal deserves your support today. So on behalf of my colleagues in yellow, thanks. It's great to see you. Good luck with this. But what you've got before you represents a very strong compromise that will work, produced by your transportation committee, your staff, and all the partners. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Chris. Next, we have Michael Barnbaum.
Thank you again. Originally, I wasn't planning to speak on this, but something came up during the presentation and some past events of this topic. The big question of, okay, we have everything set up. We're now tolling. Where does the money go that we collect from the toll? Okay, and I've had that question asked of me, and so I would hope that the money from the toll, and with Yolo County being the pioneer of this, and this item on numerous of their Yolo Transportation District Board meetings, that the money would go to public transportation service and technologies for fare collection, with open and closed loop payments, elimination of cash and paper tickets, and funding for the Capital Corridor Joint Powers Authority and the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. Those are two routes of intercity passenger rail services, although they only serve Northern and Central California primarily, but they have a huge role in the national network and are present and are always wanting every day to make Amtrak great again. So in the terms of the public transportation funding, if that's the case, as SACOG said, the Bay Area and Los Angeles have a lot of sales tax measures that are backing them up. And this region doesn't have all that many, if not maybe just one. And there was an attempt to renew it or have another one on top of it in the 2022 election, and it did not pass. So this would be perhaps another avenue of funding for public transportation agencies. And in the 4 counties, probably starting with should prioritize go to Yolo, then SAC-RT, Placer, El Dorado, Roseville Transit, and Auburn Transit as the transit agencies within the 4 counties of the jurisdictions that this would be affected the most. But the funding would first go among the agencies, again, because they were the pioneers of it, needs to first go to Yolo before it goes to any of the other transit agencies once the toll revenue is collected. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the item, that hopefully the funding goes to public transportation agencies, fare collection, and the intercity passenger rail agencies that serve Northern and Central California. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Next speaker is Dan Allison.
Good morning, directors. My name is Dan Allison and I reside in the city of Sacramento. Comments about tolling. I support the creation of a regional tolling authority. I think it is the best option. And I'm glad to see it happening. It does not mean I support capacity expansion in YOLO, but tolling authority is the right thing to do for many reasons. CARTA could have benefits far beyond what's going on in YOLO. We need to convert our HOV lanes to tolled lanes in Sacramento County. We know that HOV lanes don't really work because everybody cheats on them and they produce no income to maintain the highway that they're on. I support the one vote for Caltrans, and I'm not sure why Caltrans is still trying to argue that they need that. I think everybody agrees that they deserve one voting member. The JPA through the MOU should have the option to not use Caltrans services because they may not be the best option. So I hope the MOU doesn't lock the JPA into using Caltrans for everything. Caltrans has presented good options for what they want to do and what they can provide. That's great, but no lock-in. I believe that this whole voting issue is being rushed. There won't be any excess revenues for years. I hope there will be, but it's going to be a long time. This issue, which is the most controversial issue, it seems like everybody agrees on everything else. Why does it have to be decided right now? I think that the best voting method is proportional to the number of lane miles. That way, when Sacramento County eventually ends up with more tolled lane miles, it will have a stronger voting on the JPA. And I think that the one director, one vote kind of thing, this shows how it breaks down when you try to push it too hard. It just leads to a bunch of arguments and concerns about equity. Lane mile equity is the right way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ellison. I don't have any other speaker cards for item 6. Does anybody else wish to speak on this item?
Chair Saragosa, I did receive an email, public comment for this. May I read it into the record?
We have one more public speaker and then Tom, you want to? 2 more? Go ahead, Tom. 3, okay. We got a couple more, Lynette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you,
ahead.
Mr. Chair. Congratulations on your new opportunity to lead. And Director Darren Suen, your turn's coming. We're so glad about that. And I want to say thank you to our former chair who taught me to be additive, meaning I don't have to repeat everything that's been said already. I certainly am grateful for Directors Chapman, Lauren, and Early speaking to you as your fellow directors. They've basically spoken for me. This isn't such an exciting project. It's awfully easy to get lost in the weeds, but Interstate 80 is the only realistic way we get between the Bay Area and the Sacramento region. We don't have, because of our geography, we don't have other choices. We have an opportunity now to make it easier to move our buses more quickly, and people willing to pay can get there more quickly, and we get their money to do useful, important things with it. You know, we're all in common cause in this. A great deal of time and energy has gone into studying this, and I thought Kathleen Hanley's presentation is the best I've ever seen at this board. I thought the graphics were fantastic, and so it has been sliced, it has been diced, and now it is being served up. And I'd say adopt the recommendation. Let's get on with it. Let's get that thing done, and let's be able to spread that idea throughout the region. People don't like tolls, but we know transportation infrastructure is so costly. Transit is so costly. I've always admired the Bay Area, the Golden Gate Bridge Tolling Authority. They were probably the first in the state that started increasing tolls and then subsidizing transit. It makes sense if we're going to solve our congestion problems, clean up our air, and do other good things. Please adopt the recommendation. It makes a lot of sense. Maybe there's other ways to do it, but this one has been vetted, and I think it now should be approved. Thank you. And Christopher Gabaldon should be in the state senate. That guy is the most articulate guy we've ever had on this board.
This message brought you. Yes, Don.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and it's great to be in the room and to see all of you, many friends and many colleagues from the years past and some new faces. I'm Don Saylor. I was a chair of the SACOG board in 2015, and thanks to Director Jennings, I served as the Transportation Committee Chair right before I left the board in 2022. In 2015, one of the things that we did together was to launch the mega region collaboration with 9 Bay Area counties and San Joaquin County. And thanks to Director and Chair Frericks in 2020, I believe it was, or 2021, he'll tell you, 2020, he re-energized that. And we are now in a position where we have 14 projects, I believe it is, one of the most significant projects that we advocate together as a 16 county mega region is this segment of Interstate 80, because as Tom said, it does connect the Bay Area with our region. For years, we've had presentations. For years, we had presentations and studied managed lanes and dynamic pricing. And Chair Zaragoza, when we visited Denver, we saw how that works on the roads. When we visit other regions that are high performing, we see that they've been able to do the same thing we do together here, is to solve big problems through collaborative partnerships. This is a necessary step, and it's necessary for you to move forward today on this step, because there is a California Transportation Commission discussion coming up very soon that we need to have our ducks in order. This has to be done today. And I think I'll second Tom's comments about the staff presentation, when you see a rubric that goes through all of the decision criteria and it comes to an inescapable conclusion that you solve every problem the best way with the recommendation that's here. It was an honest staff effort. It's an effort that involved a lot of give and take between the STA representatives, SACOG's representatives, the Yolo County Transportation District representatives, and Caltrans. I'm so excited that Caltrans wants to step up to the table and be an equal partner in this and other projects, hopefully coming down the road. But you've got something that is worked out. You thread the needle with this. We've had so many issues that we struggled over the years to come to a conclusion. And the best of our work is when we listen truly, authentically to each other and come up with a solution that addresses the underlying interests that everyone brings to the table. This recommendation from your staff does just that. I'm so proud of you all for taking this up today. Thank you for letting me speak, and I look forward to your action. And I really urge you to take the staff recommendation here.
Thank you, Don. Supervisor Frericks.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the SACOG board. A couple quick things. First of all, I think we're at that time in the agenda where nearly everything has been said, yet not everybody has said it. And that's so I guess I need to add that sort of disclaimer before I speak to you all. I'm so grateful for just a few minutes before you. Just because, first of all, I spent very little time in this room in person. I was the board chair in 2020, and we were here for just a few meetings, January and February, and then boom, the world changed. So the rest of those meetings for the 2020 year were on Zoom, and even in 2021. Those of us that were fortunate enough on this board to go down to San Diego a few years ago to visit that region and have SANDAG host us, saw this tool in use, very much so throughout the San Diego region. We saw that, how this was a new tool in the toolkit, certainly, but also that there is an ability to take the toll revenues and invest it into the infrastructure, including into the different corridors, but also into transit and do a wide range of things with tolling. And I think that in managed lanes, and I think that we're on the leading edge of that here, but we are the last of the 4 major metro regions in the state of California to sort of implement this tool, and that where other places have been doing it already. I did appreciate Director Lauren's recognition of earlier in the meeting, that slide that was up at the very beginning about the board survey. And it was, I thought, same thing, exactly right. You know, you had this, the board sort of was surveyed this year. What do you want to see in the year ahead? And it was about regional collaboration to solve important problems. This item before you does exactly just that. And so I think that, you know, I'm certainly very supportive of the SACOG staff's recommendation. I do understand that this has been the sort of tolling authority discussion has been a relatively new one over the past several months, but this discussion around managed lanes and bringing it to our region and why it's going to be a tool that is yet another tool in the toolkit has been going on for years. And, you know, many of us know it. We've been having these long time discussions. So this is just sort of like final dotting of the I, crossing the T's. Appreciate that. I think the JPA structure is the right mix as being proposed. I would also say that the supermajority vote requirement should only apply to the net excess toll revenue. You know, I think it could be so onerous to try to get to supermajority requirements on other matters, and I think it doesn't. It does divide folks, and it doesn't sort of bring people together. And then, you know, truly, I think I would say in my final comment, just around the don't delay. You know, you've heard it already today, but the time is of the essence on this one. We have an $86 million grant from the federal government, and then also, of course, this pending CTC, California Transportation Commission funding to help make this project become a reality. And just ask respectfully for your support today of the staff recommendation. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lucas. Okay, and Lynette, we have one emailed comment as well.
We do. May I go ahead and read that into the record?
Yes.
Thank you. It's from Timothy Irvine. He says, "Good morning. My public comment under 250 words for today's SACOG meeting is as follows. I support SACOG agenda items 6 and 7 for ultimately creating the Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority. Toll high occupancy express lanes are essential parts of any 21st century automobile infrastructure. CARTA and toll lanes are essential to cut greenhouse gas emissions and make Sacramento I think he means vibrant and healthy place to work and live. Thank you." And that concludes the public comment.
All right, thank you. And I know, so we'll go ahead and close public comment. I know, yes, Director Dowdy-Covio had and Director Branscombe and Director Thomas. Yes. So go, Director Covio.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that, and I will be brief because we have heard from so many folks. I did want to thank staff. The documents before us are incredibly thorough and thoughtful, and I really do appreciate the amount of work that went into developing so many different recommendations and scenarios and talking about the pros and cons. I really do appreciate that. As a staffer myself, I know how much work goes in there, so I really wanted to give you kudos and being so thorough. I'm very supportive of the staff's recommendations here before us today. I think that it makes sense to have Caltrans as a voting member. You know, they are a stakeholder. They have a lot to offer with regards to the services that they provide. And I think that one vote is fine. There's one person. So I'm supportive of that. I think that it's important to have that relationship established. I also wanted to speak to Supervisor Frost's suggestion with regards to a potential amendment to the JPA with regards to the cap for the administrative costs per AB 194. Perhaps just putting a footnote or something in there so that, you know, everyone is clear that there is that 3% cap per law, because I didn't know that either. And so I think it doesn't hurt to add that into the JPA somewhere, even if it's just a footnote, but to have that so it's very clear. So with that, I would urge my colleagues to support the staff recommendation with that proposed amendment to the JPA. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Branscombe.
Thank you. First, Chairman, I wanted to compliment you on your opening comment on home ownership. Last night, I became aware of a statistic. More than 40% of members of Generation Z, whatever that is, between ages of 21 and 29, more than 40% of them are living at home. They can't afford to buy a home. They can't afford to rent without a roommate, can't afford to get married and have children. It's a real challenge. So very terrific priority. Compliments. Also compliments to staff. Staff started with a clean sheet of paper, and I am cautious to criticize or add anything when folks start off with a clean sheet of paper and come up with a real plan. However, I do have some concerns and I wanted to share them here. The first concerns are with respect to risks inherent in the governance structure that's being proposed. The government structure, the initial government structure is the 5 directors. It would be the 1 director appointed by SACOG, I believe an at-large member, and then 3 members from Yolo County and a member from Caltrans. Now, per the conversation, it's clearly foreseeable that there will be several events yearly, I imagine, where Caltrans involvement or a contract with Caltrans will be brought up, and that'll leave 4 directors to decide that. In the world I come from, you don't go into something with a high risk of a deadlock. Now, this risk may be deemed remote and acceptable by many, and I'll bow to you if you feel that way. That said, it's a risk that I would avoid. I recommend avoiding. I was, in my decades in and around the venture capital business, I have helped structure more than 1 original board of directors, and you always avoid any chance of a deadlock. Deadlocks slow things down and create embarrassment and difficulties for the organization, as well as can cost money. That's first. The other governance risk, and I don't mean to offend anyone or any organization here, but I'm speaking in the abstract. The other governance risk is that this is the first project in the region. I'm reading from your staff report. First project in the region, which clearly foresees many projects in the region. So I'm viewing this as a project that is a regional project. However, this project is dominated by a board of Yolo County representatives. Now, it is, again, I'm not casting aspersions. This is just a risk in the abstract that should be considered. Yolo County directors could pursue interests that were in the interest of Yolo County, but may not be in the interest of the rest of the region. And this pathway is the primary freeway access to the western boundary of the entire region. That's a risk. Again, you may deem that risk remote and acceptable. I would caution against that view, caution very strongly against that view. And not because of any person or any organizations, just in the abstract, that risk is there. And there are means of avoiding that risk. My suggestion would be to come up with I think it's scenario 2, when Sacramento County comes on board, there's 3 more directors. Unfortunately, that takes it to a board number of 8, which is again, the potential for deadlock right off the get-go. But have a board with 2 Caltrans directors, 6 total directors, with 3 additional directors from either Sacramento County or from the region. This is clearly a regional asset. It affects the primary western boundary of the rest of the region and should be dealt with and managed from a regional point of view, I believe. Okay, that deals with the governance risks. As to Caltrans participation on the board, Caltrans seeks a contract right to a board seat. There's a difference between a contract right and an appointment. A contract right, you don't get rid of them, regardless of how the relationship goes. I am arguing caution. I'm suggesting a great deal of caution in approaching this relationship. First of all, a big part of their pitch that we saw, and we saw this at the Transportation Committee last week, is a promise of significant economic benefits. It's like making an investment in the company and they want a seat at the board. That's reasonable. You see that all the time. And they're given 180 days now because we're on a tight timeline and we don't want to put that loop into the middle of it. But they're given 180 days to come up with something specific. It would seem to me that that should be something specific and by way of contract. They should be committed by way of contract. And what if they come up with something that is not acceptable? I understand if they come up with something that's not acceptable, too bad. They're on the board anyway. I would suggest very strongly that if they do not come up with something that is acceptable by way of contract, where they're firmly committed to these economic benefits that they're promising, that those seats be vacated. In other words, we should have leverage on them delivering on the profit, on the promises. There is no leverage in the existing arrangements for them delivering on those promises. Furthermore, once they are on the board, presuming they come up with something that is acceptable, and I'd like to think that's going to happen, then downstream, we're going to have some time to view how the relationship works, recognizing that in not one instance around the state has any other transit authority, tolling authority, embraced Caltrans. Now, you mentioned that they're watching closely what we're doing, but they must have had their reasons for being cautious about that. And so I'm suggesting that we also put a timeline, say 3 to 5 years. Say at a 3 to 5 year point, SACOG reviews or the board reviews the continued participation of Caltrans on the board so that they become a seat that is no longer a contract right where they can't be eliminated from the board. And there may be reason that the board would want to eliminate from the board. We don't know what those would be. Again, these are things in the abstract. Mr. Moore, I'm not, no aspersions cast at Caltrans, but this is one of those risks when you throw personalities and people aside, this is a very real risk. So when someone has a contract right, continuing contract right, I would suggest that a 3 to 5 year period, that contract right be reviewed. That gives the tolling authority and SACOG continuing leverage in the relationship with Caltrans. And I believe that would be very important in the best interest of the tolling authority and SACOG. So very briefly, 2 suggestions on governance and the composition of the board, given significant, in my mind, risks that, again, others may find remote and acceptable. And so there could be 2 opinions. There's clearly could be 2 opinions on that. On Caltrans, I think it's important to maintain leverage when someone or an organization is seeking a contract right to a board where they can't be thrown off the board. There you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Brown. Director Thomas.
Very briefly, immense gratitude for the incredible amount of regional collaboration that has got us to this point. I'd also like to be additive in my comments that I appreciate the provision that this group has had looking forward and the ability that should a tolling authority be established in Placer County or El Dorado County, that we can also join the board as voting members. Also appreciate the provision that STA, PCTPA, and EDCDC may also join the board as non-voting members in order to further increased regional collaboration. Very much appreciate those provisions.
Great. Thank you, Director. Yes.
To the Chair, although I see Mayor Branscom's position, it's important to move this item forward. So I just suggest that that we make sure that SACOG holds Caltrans to their commitment, or that we make sure that they provide the promised resources, not limited to, but including the key points that were in that great presentation, the TMC service, maintenance service, engineering services, access to their communications network, expedited access, and all that. And also just when we're talking about expanding to a supermajority vote, that we've heard loud and clear from folks out at YOLO, whether they're the past directors. I want to thank past directors Stollard, Saylor, and Felix for their comments. But you know, that YOLO County is supporting the way it's presented, staff's recommendation. I think they vote to approve this JPA next week. So, it was mentioned earlier, the Chair Kennedy had the shortest meetings in the past, and it looks like you have the longest one.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations on that. So
Starting off right.
if there are no further questions, I'd move to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
Speaking, could I make a motion to amend the motion to add sorry. I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion to add the language with regards to AB 194 and the cap for administrative fee to the JPA.
That's fine.
Can I make a suggestion on that? Just because I'm a little reluctant to do an amendment when it's still got to go to the other parties, and if they may not agree with how we word it. My thought would be, what if there's direction that we include that into the board bylaws? Because within a couple weeks, we're gonna have to start doing bylaws, and those will write in there to reflect what's in AB 194 and what sort of guardrails are around there. And then we can bring that back to this board once we have them. That way, everyone knows what's governing this JPA. Would
Okay,
that
so
work?
to speak to that, Mr. Chairman, that would be fine for me, but I want to absolutely make sure that it's some very easy access. So if that's the route to go to ensure that we can move forward quickly, then I would be fine with that, and I would rescind my motion to amend.
Do we have a second? Second from Mike. All right, we have a first and a second. I think for in order of time, let's go ahead. I think in this one, because we know we have different opinions, let's do a roll call vote.
Thanks, Chair Gosa. Director Baines,
Aye.
Bradford,
Aye.
Branscombe,
For the reasons stated, nay.
Houlihan,
Aye.
Burris absent, Chapman,
Aye.
Desmond,
I, with the hope that this JPA strives for consensus among the counties that are affected by operation.
Dowden Calvillo,
Aye.
Frost, Gallardo,
Aye.
Gog,
Yes.
Gore,
Aye.
Early for Guerrero,
Aye.
Harris, Haudashelt,
Aye.
Jennings,
Yes.
Joyner,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Nisley,
Yes.
Kozlowski,
Yes.
Lauren, Lozano,
Aye.
Terry for Sanders absent, Saragosa,
Aye.
Daniels for Schaefer,
Aye.
Vega,
Aye.
Soon,
Aye.
Thomas,
Aye.
Vang,
Yes.
Villegas, and Teeter. Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thank you. And Kathleen, thank you very much. I appreciate all the work on this, and thank you for the robust conversation here, and we will move forward. So with that, I'm just gonna say, so we're gonna go to item 7, and I do apologize we're gonna bump up right against time. I am, however, going to, we're not gonna do information items 8 and 9, so we'll catch up a little bit on time there. So with that, we'll move to item 7, which is our capital area region tolling authority appointments and administration. And so on this one, I've worked with SACOG staff on this as we were going through it, and I've put forward Director Kennedy and Director Villegas as the 2 SACOG appointments to the tolling authority. And for a lot of reasons, one, I mean, former Chair Kennedy, I think has just done a terrific job. I think it's important to have that Sacramento voice there looking forward, and someone that can really talk to that regionalism approach. And then with Supervisor Villegas, Director Villegas, he is not on YTD. And so I thought, and I'm not sure how appointments will come from YTD, but I wanted to ensure that we had that voice as well, so we didn't get into conflicting folks on there from the SACOG board. So it was kind of my thought process behind those 2 appointments. And with that, I will hand it over to James for staff portion.
I think you've said it well, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Can I make a motion to appoint former Chair Kennedy, Director Kennedy, as well as Director Villegas to the JPA Board to represent SACOG.
Second by Baines. For Baines, all right, we have a first and a second. Do we have any comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, please.
Chair, hold on.
Oh, we do have,
The motion doesn't include the full staff recommendation, which includes appropriation funds. For
that's right,
startup.
we have 110,000.
I would like to amend my motion to include the full staff recommendation.
Amendment accepted.
Thank you. All right, roll call, please.
And Chair Saragosa, there's no public comment for this item.
No public.
So, right.
Okay, great, that's right, thank you.
All right. And did you want to do a group vote?
Actually, yeah,
Chair
I
Sue?
don't see any, so let's go ahead and do all those in favor. Opposed? Opposed, all right, thank you, everybody. All right, so like I said, we're gonna go ahead and we will do item 8 and 9 next month, and I promise Director Baines, I will be shorter on this one coming up going forward. I gotta get some directions here. That's true, that is true, Bonnie, good point. So with that, we'll do some really quick, any chair reports. I have none today. Does anybody like to make any comments? All right, seeing none. James, you have anything for us?
Great kickoff to the year, and that's really, all I have to say. Really appreciate your engagement on this past item. And I do just, in closing, you all have recognized them, but the staff, our staff, the staff of YTD and Caltrans really appreciate all the very hard work to get that prior item across the finish line. Thank you for your incredible stick-to-itiveness. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. Please read your receive and file items. There's plenty of information, especially our new members. Oh, before I forget, I also want to, can we give a warm welcome to Director, not Villegas, but Director, yes, thank you. Oh, we also have, yes, I wanted to do this at the beginning and I totally forgot. So thank you very much. Welcome to the board. And with that, at 11:57, we will adjourn today's meeting.
Good job.